I've been sort of acting for as long as I can remember. Me and my sisters and my cousins used to write plays in the summer holidays together and build the costumes and the sets and write a sort of story, and they were completely outlandish and fantastical, and then we'd perform them for our parents at the end of the summer. And then it got serious, or at least I allowed myself to commit to acting as a profession, which I would do for the rest of my life, I hoped. When I was at Cambridge University, I was there reading classics, and I was in a production of Tennessee Williams' Streetcar Named Desire, and Lorraine Hamilton, who was a talent agent in London at the time, came to see it, and I was in my second term, aged 19 years old, and she came to see it. She wrote me a letter and said, I'd love to meet you in London. So I got on the train, and I remember going into her office, and she represented Emma Thompson and Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie, and I was like, wow, you've got a hell of a list here. And she was so sweet, and she said, Tom, I think you can do this if you want to, and I'd love to be your agent. And I was just amazed and incredulous, and it was really that moment, being in that production, that was when I gave myself permission to want to do it as much as I think I always had. I think I'd always dreamt of it, but I'd never given myself the permission until that point. And then I was off to the races. I was flying. There was nothing else I was going to do. There's an Italian film called The Sun's Room by an Italian director called Nanni Moretti, and it's about Nanni plays the lead in it as well, and he plays a psychotherapist who's so wise and still and compassionate and fun, and he has a family. He's got a wife and a son and a daughter, and early in the film the son is killed in a terrible accident, and it's really about how the family pulls together and kind of recovers from that. And I remember seeing it. I was like 19, and I found it so affecting, and it became sort of my favourite film of all time. And then as I got older, I kept going back to it just to check that it was as good as I remembered it being, and it really is. Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Indiana Jones trilogy. When I saw those films as a child, that was another world for me. I was a boy. It's about a very masculine hero who is charismatic and intellectually curious and an adventurer, and the films are so dear to my heart still. If they come on television, I can't help but watch the rest of it. The last thing I should say is, I would be lying if I didn't say this to you, is The Jungle Book. Wolfgang Reitherman's The Jungle Book for Walt Disney Studios, because it's perfect. I love that film. And when people come into my life and they haven't seen it, I have to sit down and watch it with them. And one day I can't wait to show my kids that film, because that's like one of the greats. I'm always quite wary of giving advice, because I think people generally like to find their own way. And all the advice I can think of is much better than any advice I could give. It's Shakespeare's "To thine own self be true." The more authentic and honest you are in your interaction with the world, both professionally and personally, the better you will be placed to do the kind of work which will touch others and move their hearts and minds. Because if you mean it, the chances are it's going to mean something to somebody else.